My parents' guest room in Columbus smells like my teenage years, vanilla candles and disappointment. I'm 32 weeks pregnant, sleeping in the same twin bed where I used to dream about my future. Back then, I imagined a house with a wraparound porch, a husband who adored me, maybe 3 kids and a golden retriever. Instead, I'm divorced, unemployed, and carrying a baby whose father's last text was, "Wow, sucks to be you." 2 years ago, I had everything I thought I wanted. Brett and I had been married for 2 years, living in a cute apartment in Cincinnati, both working decent jobs. He was in logistics, working nights at a distribution center. I was doing social media marketing for a startup. We were young, I was 22, he was 24, but we thought we had it all figured out. That's the thing about being 22. You think you know everything when you actually know nothing. It started with TikTok. God, it always starts with something stupid, doesn't it? I was obsessed with relationship TikToks. You know the ones. Couples pranking each other, doing cute dances, sharing their glow-ups. But then the algorithm started showing me different content. Women talking about ethical non-monogamy, podcasts about how humans weren't meant to be with one person forever, beautiful couples sharing how opening their marriage had made them stronger. Monogamy is a social construct, one particularly gorgeous influencer said, her husband nodding beside her. We're not possessive. We're evolved. I started sending these to Brett, at first as jokes. Can you imagine? I'd text with a laughing emoji. But I wasn't really joking. These people looked so sophisticated, so confident. They were traveling the world, experiencing everything, while Brett and I were eating the same Chinese takeout every Friday and falling asleep to Netflix. The first time I brought it up seriously, Brett literally choked on his beer. You want to do what now? Just think about it, I said, trying to sound casual. We're so young. Don't you want to make sure we experience everything before we settle down with kids? I thought we were already settled down. That's what marriage means. But what if there's more out there? What if we're limiting ourselves? He stared at me like I'd suggested we rob a bank. Sarah, I love you. I don't want anyone else. But I couldn't let it go. The seed was planted, fed by every video of happy poly couples, every podcast about expanding your love, every article about how Gen Z was revolutionizing relationships. I'd bring it up during commercial breaks, over dinner, in bed, after sex. We could have rules, I'd say. Boundaries. It would make us stronger. It would make us divorced, he'd reply. But I wore him down. That's what I did. I wore down the man who loved me until he gave me what I thought I wanted. It took 6 months of articles, videos, arguments disguised as discussions, tears when he'd say no. I told him he was controlling, possessive, stuck in outdated thinking. I said if he really loved me, he'd want me to be my fullest self. The truth? I already had someone in mind. Jake from my yoga class with his man bun and his stories about backpacking through Thailand. He'd been flirting for months, and I'd been flirting back, telling myself it was harmless while knowing it wasn't. Brett finally broke on a Thursday night in March. I'd been giving him the silent treatment for 3 days after another fight about it. Fine, he said, exhausted. Fine. We can try it, but we need rules. I hugged him, told him he wouldn't regret it. He was already regretting it. I could see it in his eyes, but I was too high on victory to care. We made rules like we were drafting a business contract. No unprotected sex, no one in our home, no overnight stays, no details shared. If sex happened with someone else, no touching each other for 30 days, plus STD testing. Brett insisted on that last one, and I agreed, thinking it wouldn't matter because he'd probably never actually use this freedom I was giving us. I was right about that part. Our first Friday in our open marriage, I had a date lined up with Jake before Brett even got home from work. I told myself I was nervous, but it was pure excitement. I wore the red dress Brett had bought me for our anniversary, did my makeup like I was going to prom. You look nice, Brett said when he saw me. His voice was flat. Thanks. You okay? Yeah, great. Living the dream. I should have canceled right then. Should have seen the pain I was causing. Instead, I kissed his cheek and left for my date with another man. Jake was everything Brett wasn't. Spontaneous where Brett was steady, adventurous where Brett was careful. He ordered for me at the trendy restaurant, told stories about ayahuasca ceremonies and surfing in Bali. When he suggested we go back to his place, I said yes without hesitation. The sex was fine. That's the thing they don't tell you in those TikToks. New doesn't always mean better. Jake was selfish in bed, more interested in positions that would look good in a mirror than what actually felt good. But it was new and forbidden, and I convinced myself that made it amazing. I got home at 11 p.m. to find Brett on the couch, still awake. "How was your night?" he asked. "Good, really good. Did you—" "No details, remember?" That was the rule. He nodded, went to bed without another word. I followed later, careful not to touch him, already counting down 30 days until I could have both worlds. My stable husband and my exciting side piece. For a year, this was our pattern. I'd go out every Friday while Brett worked. He tried dating 3 times. 3 times women walked away when they found out he was married. "They don't get it," he'd say. "Their loss," I'd reply, secretly relieved. Jake and I weren't dating, we were just fucking. He made that clear when I tried to suggest dinner somewhere nicer than his apartment. But I told myself I didn't care. I was evolved. I was experiencing life. I was the main character in my own story. Brett was shrinking. I see that now, looking back. He started working extra shifts, going to the gym at weird hours, anything to be out of the apartment. He lost weight, stopped suggesting date nights, stopped trying to touch me even when the 30 days were up. We became roommates who happened to share a lease and a last name. "Maybe we should close the marriage," he suggested once, 6 months in. "Try to reconnect." "Why?" "Because you're not getting laid," I snapped. "That's not my fault." It was the cruelest thing I could have said. I knew it as the words left my mouth, but I was so deep in my own narrative, the empowered woman exploring her sexuality, that I couldn't admit I was just being selfish. Year 2 was when it got bad. Jake was getting rougher, meaner. What started as exciting dominance turned into actual disrespect. He'd leave marks I had to hide, cancel last minute, mock Brett when I mentioned him. "Your husband's a pussy," he said once. "Real men don't share." We're evolved. We're not possessive." He laughed. "You're not evolved. You're just a bored housewife who wants to have her cake and eat it too." But I kept going back. Pride, maybe. Or just the sunk cost fallacy of having destroyed my marriage for this. I had to make it worth something. The breaking point came on our 4th anniversary. Brett took the day off, cleaned the apartment, made my favorite dinner. I could smell it when I got home from work. His grandmother's bolognese that took hours to make right. "Happy anniversary," he said when I walked in. There were flowers on the table, the good plates out, a card propped against my wine glass. "Oh, right, thanks." I watched his face fall as I headed to the shower. 20 minutes later, I came out in my going-out clothes. "I'm meeting Jake at Sidebar." That band is playing. "It's our anniversary." "So? We can celebrate tomorrow." "Sarah, please. Just stay. Please." "Don't be controlling." I left him there with his cold bolognese and his dying hope. I told myself he was being dramatic. We had our whole lives for anniversaries. What was one night? Jake was high when I got to his place afterward. Higher than usual. The apartment reeked of weed and something else. Something chemical that made my nose burn. Empty beer bottles covered every surface. Pizza boxes stacked in corners like modern art. This was what I'd dressed up for. What I'd left my husband's anniversary dinner for. The sex was terrible. He kept losing focus, laughing at nothing, calling me by the wrong name. "Jessica, baby," he mumbled into my neck, and I didn't even correct him. What was the point? I wasn't Sarah here. I was just another Friday night conquest, interchangeable with whoever came before or after. "You're so uptight," he said when I tried to leave around 2 a.m. His eyes were bloodshot, pupils dilated. "Like, why do you care so much about everything?" "I need to go home." Brett Dash quote. "Brett, Brett, Brett." He mimicked my voice, cruel and high-pitched. "That's all you talk about. Your boring husband and his boring rules. Why'd you even marry him if he's so fucking dull?" I didn't have an answer. Looking around his disgusting apartment, the mattress on the floor, the dead plants, the smell of failure masked by incense, I couldn't remember why I'd thought this was better than the man who'd made me dinner from scratch. "Stay," he commanded, pulling me back roughly. "I want morning sex." "You know I can't. The rules." "Fuck the rules. Fuck Brett. Or don't, I guess, since you're here." He laughed at his own joke, the sound sharp and mean. "You know what your problem is? You want to be a bad girl, but you're too chicken shit to commit. Either be a wife or be a whore. This halfway shit is pathetic." The word hit like a slap. Whore. Is that what I was? I looked down at my dress, Brett's anniversary gift, now wrinkled and stained with Jake's sweat, and felt something break inside me. "I'm not a whore." "No? Then what do you call a married woman who comes to my place every Friday to get fucked? 'Cause I've got a few words for it, and none of them are nice." I should have left, should have walked out and never looked back. Instead, I stayed to prove something. To him, to myself, to the universe that was watching my marriage crumble. I passed out at 4 a.m. on his filthy sheets, pretending this was freedom when it was just another cage. When I woke up at 11:30, Jake was already in the kitchen, making coffee like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't stripped away every illusion I'd built about what we were doing. "Coffee?" he offered, not looking up from his phone. "I have to go." Brett's been calling. "Yeah, he called here too, like 6 times. I told him you were busy." He smirked, scrolling through what I realized were Tinder matches. "You should probably deal with that." It was 11:30 a.m. My phone was dying. I had a dozen texts from Brett, but only one mattered. "You broke our boundary of no sleeping over. I am done." My hands shook as I called him. He didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. "Shit," Jake said, stretching. "Hubby mad?" "This is your fault. You made me stay." "I didn't make you do shit. You wanted to stay. You wanted all of this." He lit a joint, not even looking at me. "Maybe now you can stop pretending and just be who you are, a cheater with extra steps." I threw on my clothes and drove home, breaking every speed limit. Brett's car was gone. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Dinner cold on the table, flowers wilting, card unopened. I sat at that table and cried until I couldn't breathe. He came home that night but wouldn't talk beyond the basics. When I tried to initiate sex, thinking maybe that would fix things, he reminded me about the 30-day rule. "But I want to close the marriage. I'm done with Jake. I choose you." "You chose me?" He laughed, but it sounded like breaking. "How generous. The man you married is your backup plan." "That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant." The next 30 days were the longest of my life. Brett was polite but distant. He'd leave when I entered a room, sleep on the couch despite my protests, communicate in single syllables. I tried everything, cooking his favorite meals, wearing lingerie around the apartment, suggesting couples activities. He looked through me like I was furniture. On day 30, I went to the doctor. Clean bill of health, just like I expected. But they ran a pregnancy test as standard procedure. Positive. I sat in my car in the clinic parking lot for an hour, staring at the results. The word kept swimming in front of my eyes like it might change if I looked long enough. Pregnant. My hands shook as I did the math on my phone, checking dates, counting backwards. The timeline was undeniable. It was Jake's. We'd been careful, but not careful enough. Meanwhile, Brett and I hadn't had sex in 4 months. I threw up in the parking lot trash can, heaving until nothing came up but bile. An elderly woman asked if I needed help. I laughed hysterically, tears streaming down my face. Help? I needed a time machine. I needed to go back 9 months and slap myself when I first downloaded TikTok. I needed to have never met Jake or heard the word polyamory or thought that boredom was something that needed fixing. My phone rang. Brett. Where are you? You said you'd be home an hour ago. Doctor's office. My voice sounded foreign, hollow. Everything okay? Number. Nothing would ever be okay again. I'll be home soon. I drove home in a daze, some delusional part of me thinking this could save us. A baby. Brett had always wanted kids. We'd painted that yellow room together, spent hours debating names, imagining our future family. Maybe he'd forgive everything for the chance to be a father. Maybe love could override math and biology, and the fact that I'd shattered his trust into dust. We're pregnant, I announced when he got home. He stared at me. We? I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. No, you're going to have a baby with Jake. It could be yours. Don't. His voice was ice. Don't insult my intelligence. We haven't touched in months. You made sure of that with your 30-day rules. I texted Jake that night. His response? Wow, sucks to be you. Maybe pass it off as your husband's? I showed Brett the text, hoping he'd comfort me, protect me from this asshole who'd used me. Instead, he filed for divorce the next day. The next 3 months were a blur of me trying to save something that was already dead. I begged, pleaded, promised counseling, offered to sign postnups, swore I'd be the perfect wife. Brett was unmoved. He'd checked out completely, this stranger wearing my husband's face. The divorce should have been simple, but a judge ordered 6 weeks of marriage counseling. Brett showed up but didn't participate. He'd sit there like a statue while I cried and made promises to the therapist. I see you're in pain, the therapist said in our last session, but what I don't see is acknowledgement of the pain you caused. I made a mistake. Did you? Or did you make a series of calculated choices that prioritized your desires over your marriage? Brett actually smiled at that. It was the first emotion I'd seen from him in weeks. My birthday fell 2 weeks before our divorce was final. I begged Brett to spend it with me. No thanks. Please, just dinner for old time's sake. I don't waste my special occasions on you anymore. The last one was our anniversary when you went and got knocked up by some pothead loser. Pothead loser. He'd never talked like that before. I'd broken something in him, turned my sweet husband into someone bitter and mean. Or maybe just honest. That night, I got drunk. Stupidly, dangerously drunk. And then I drove. I told myself I was just going to Jake's to make him take responsibility, or to Brett's friend's place to make him talk to me. I don't know. I was spinning out, hormonal, desperate. The cops pulled me over doing 80 in a 35. DUI, reckless endangerment, endangering an unborn child. I spent the night in jail, throwing up in a cell that smelled like piss and regret. My parents bailed me out. The look on my mother's face will haunt me forever. Disappointment mixed with disgust, mixed with pity. She didn't say anything during the drive home, just gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. My father followed in their other car, probably so they wouldn't have to be in the same space as me any longer than necessary. Pregnant and drunk driving, she finally said when we pulled into their driveway. My daughter, who I raised better than this, pregnant with some stranger's baby and drunk driving. He's not a stranger. His name is Jake. I don't give a damn what his name is. She never yelled, my mother, but she was yelling now. You had a good man. A good man who loved you, who would have given you the world, and you threw him away for what? For some piece of trash who got you pregnant and abandoned you? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got bored. You got bored with stability and love and commitment because some videos on your phone told you that wasn't enough. You know what I had at your age? A husband who worked 60-hour weeks and still helped with night feedings. A mortgage we could barely afford and hand-me-down furniture. And you know what I didn't have? The luxury of being bored. My father stood in the doorway, silent. He'd always been the softer one, the one who defended me when Mom got strict. But he wasn't defending me now. "Your old room is ready," was all he said. "We'll get your things tomorrow." "How did this happen?" my mother asked that night over a dinner I couldn't eat. "You had such a nice life. That apartment, Brett's good job, the future you were building. How did you end up pregnant and arrested and divorced?" I wanted to explain about the TikToks, about feeling trapped, about Jake making me feel alive. But sitting at my parents' kitchen table, 7 months pregnant with a criminal record and no husband, I realized how stupid it would all sound. How do you explain throwing away gold for glitter? How do you justify destroying something real for something that was never more than a fantasy? I had. Brett with his steady job and his grandmother's recipes, our Friday night Chinese food and weekend farmers market trips, the way he'd kiss my forehead every morning before work, the life I'd thrown away for TikTok fantasies and a yoga instructor who didn't even know my middle name. Brett didn't come to see me. He did help my parents pack my things because of course he did. Even after everything, he was still kind in the ways that mattered. Just not to me. Not anymore. The divorce was finalized last week. Brett gave me everything I was entitled to and not a penny more. He'd already found a new apartment, started a new life. I heard from mutual friends that he was doing well, promoted at work, dating a teacher who appreciated his stability. They're engaged now. She doesn't have TikTok. Jake disappeared when I got arrested. Blocked me on everything, moved to San Diego for a fresh start. He has a girlfriend now too, according to Instagram. Another yoga enthusiast who probably thinks she's special. And me? I'm back in my childhood bed, 32 weeks pregnant with a baby whose father wants nothing to do with either of us. I work part-time at a call center, the only job that would hire someone with a pending court date. My parents love me but can't hide their disappointment. My old friends don't call anymore. Who wants to hang out with the cautionary tale? The baby kicks all the time now. Active little thing. Probably got Jake's restlessness. Sometimes I talk to her. I'm having a girl, and tell her about the life we were supposed to have. The house with the wraparound porch, the golden retriever. The father who would have loved her even though she wasn't his. Because that's who Brett was. The kind of man who would have raised another man's baby if I'd just been honest from the beginning. Instead, I lied and schemed and manipulated until I got exactly what I thought I wanted. Freedom to fuck whoever I pleased. Turns out that freedom costs more than those TikToks mentioned. They left out the part about losing everything that matters for orgasms that weren't even that good. I still have TikTok. The algorithm shows me different things now. Single mom tips, budget baby gear, how to survive on one income. Sometimes an ethical non-monogamy video pops up and I scroll past so fast my thumb cramps. Those beautiful couples with their evolved relationships and their rules that definitely always work out. I wonder how many of them are already divorced, making their own videos about starting over. Brett got engaged last month. A mutual friend sent me a photo, thinking it would give me closure. He looked happy, really happy, not the forced smile he'd worn our last year together. His new fiancée is pretty in an uncomplicated way, sundress and sandals, holding his hand like it's a privilege. They're planning to honeymoon in Costa Rica after the wedding, the trip we'd always talked about taking but never did because I thought we had time. We didn't have time. We had 2 good years, and 2 years of me slowly poisoning everything we'd built. 4 years total, though only the first 2 counted. The rest was just the time it took for the corpse to stop twitching. My daughter will be born in 8 weeks. I'll raise her alone in my parents' house, teach her to be better than me. Maybe someday I'll meet someone who wants both of us, but I'm not counting on it. Good men don't usually line up for pregnant women with DUIs and histories of destroying nice things. Sometimes I dream about that night, our anniversary when I left Brett with his homemade dinner to go fuck a man who didn't respect me. In the dream, I stay. I eat the bolognese, open the card, make love to my husband in our bed. I wake up happy and married and bored in all the right ways. But I didn't stay. I chose the door marked Evolved and walked straight into a wall. Turns out some doors are closed for a reason, and some rules exist because breaking them breaks everything else. My name is Sarah. I'm 24 years old, divorced, pregnant, and living with my parents. I destroyed my marriage because TikTok told me monogamy was outdated. I traded a man who loved me for a man who didn't even remember my last name. I thought I was the main character, but I was just another idiot who confused destruction with growth. Brett's doing great, really great. And somewhere in Cincinnati, he's building the life we should have had with someone who understands that being bored together is better than being excited alone. Someone who doesn't need 30 days between touches or rules to make love work. I had that someone, had that life. And I opened our marriage until it broke, because a stranger on the internet told me that evolution meant wanting more. Turns out evolution actually means learning from your mistakes. Too bad you have to make them first. The baby's kicking again. Time for my prenatal vitamins, and my court-ordered AA meeting and all the other consequences of being young and stupid and thinking you know better than everyone who came before. I know better now. But now doesn't matter when then is already gone, taking with it the only man who ever loved me enough to let me destroy him. That's my story. How I traded a husband for a hashtag and ended up with neither. How I thought I was too evolved for monogamy and devolved into someone who drunk drives while pregnant. How I had everything and threw it away for TikTok fantasies and yoga instructor dick. Brett, if you ever read this, you were right. You were always right. And I was always wrong. I just needed 2 years and a baby and a criminal record to figure it out. But you already knew that. That's why you're planning for Costa Rica with your new fiancé while I'm in Columbus with my old regrets. Funny how that worked out. Or not funny at all. Just exactly what I deserved.